being on time. It's a nice quality. Leading up to the Rath Yatra that happened just last weekend, right? It seems like a long time ago, at least in my schedule. There was discussion about pastimes of Lord Chaitanya related to Rath Yatra. That was the focus for a few weeks. No, Rath Yatra is behind us, and what's ahead of us? The summer's ahead of us. And I thought I would bring a little focus on the systematic study of Scripture, because that's something that Srila Prabhupada often spoke about. It's something that when our members seriously take up systematic study of the Scripture, it helps them advance in Krishna consciousness. In one sense, it described the nectar of devotion. It helps one get a foothold, like when you're trying to scale a wall or a mountain or something, to get a good spot for your foot, and then you can scale the wall or scale the mountain. In other words, what the essence of spiritual life is not how much you know, because we've all had experience. We've met people that know lots of things, even lots of verses from Scripture, and they can quote them and speak the message of the Scripture, but not have any realization. We've all had that experience without detailing it. So the essence is not how much you know, but the essence is your submission or surrender unto the personality of Godhead, the sincere desire to connect with the personality of Godhead in loving devotion, offering yourself and your activity and your mind and your heart to the personality of Godhead. That's the essence. And then devotional teachings, Prabhupada used these terms, bhakti shastras, the writings of our devotional scriptures, particularly Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the writings of our great acharyas in pursuance of those wonderful teachings. They help to guide us. They assist us in proceeding on the path of achieving pure devotion to Krishna. And we can use all the help we can get. So they give support to that essence. So I'm speaking now something about one of our devotional teachings, or it's found in several of them, in Srimad Bhagavatam and Nectar Devotion, in Bhagavad Gita, the processes of devotional service. And by so doing, encouraging all of you, take part in systematic study of Prabhupada's writings or the devotional texts, and it will assist you in progressing nicely in spiritual life. So the particular topic is, of the 9 processes of devotional service, they're described in Srimad Bhagavatam. One of them is friendship. So what does it mean? An interesting idea. Friendship as a way of engaging devotional service to the personality of Godhead. So here's the verse. We can say it together. Some of you may know the verse already. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam pada sevanam archanam bandhanam dasyam satyam atma nivedanam. And I'll read the translation. Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia and pastimes of Lord Vishnu. That translation for Shravanam. Then, and Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu. Then, remembering them, that is the subject matter of Lord Vishnu. Remembering him. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia. Deity worship, archana. Offering prayers to the Lord, vandanam. Becoming his servant, dasyam. Considering the Lord one's best friend. That's our topic this evening, or today, morning. Sakyam. Considering the Lord one's best friend. And Atma Nivedanam, surrendering everything unto the Lord, in other words, serving you with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes, that's the second verse that follows this one, these 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. The placement of this verse is, as you see, 7th canto, chapter 5. This is something that was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, Hiranyakashipu. When his father asked him, "My dear son, what's the best thing that you've learned?" He meant in the Asura Kula. We have Guru Kula, but Prahlad was enrolled in a different kind, not a Guru Kula, but an Asura Kula, a school to train him up to become a demon. And he didn't find anything that Sanda and Amarpa were teaching him to be the best thing that he learned. But what Narada Muni had taught him, the process of devotional service, he found that to be the best thing he had learned. And these are the processes of devotional service. So we're focusing on Sakyam, considering the Lord one's best friend. Now, here's a Bhagavad Gita quiz question. Bhagavad Gita quiz question. Where in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna also speak about seeing him as one's best friend? We'll call on somebody. She raised her hand, so I'm going to call on her. Go ahead.
5th chapter, last verse.
Last verse of chapter 5. You know the Sanskrit? Wait, what happened? There it is. There it is. Bhoktanam Jagatapasam. That's the first line here. The part that's highlighted. Suradam Sarvabhutanam, the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, not only of his devotees, but Sarvabhutanam, all living entities. Suhrid, well-wisher. Rid and Suhrid, he's very affectionate. He's the best friend of all living entities. So, this doesn't do what it's supposed to do. They're supposed to pop up one at a time. Anyway. So, what does it mean to have friendship with the Lord, and how are we supposed to do that? And why should we do that? Prabhupada, this is quotes from Ishopanishad, where Prabhupada again speaks of this point. Only the Lord's devotee and friend can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Now, who knows that verse from Bhagavad Gita? There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says to Arjuna, "You can understand because you're my dearmost friend and my devotee." Who knows the verse? Wait a minute. I'm looking at over here, these 2 scholars. You know the verse? You look like you were trying to recall. You know the answer?
Maharaj,
You know the answer?
yes. Bhaktosi Sakha.
Okay. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. Because you're my bhakta and my sakha, my devotee and my dear friend, you can understand this transcendental teaching, and others cannot. So Prabhupada is saying that only the Lord's devotee and friend can understand the Bhagavad Gita. So there's a reason to become Krishna's friend, so you can understand Bhagavad Gita. But we're not qualified like Arjuna, so we can't be a friend of Krishna like Arjuna was a friend of Krishna. Not exactly like that anyway. So what does it mean to be Krishna's friend? This is an explanation why. Prabhupada spoke in a verse or a lecture in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If we want peace, that's this 529 Bhagavad Gita, then we should understand that here is my friend, the supreme friend, Krishna. That's Gyatamam Shantim Richati. That's this verse. Gyatamam Shantim Richati. If we see Krishna as our dearmost friend, so Prabhupada is saying, here is my friend, the supreme friend. We can then be situated in transcendental peace. So those are reasons why we should consider this. It's a process of devotional service. It's an advanced stage in devotional service. But even in a beginning stage, we're not Arjuna, but in a beginning stage, we can look upon Krishna as our dear friend. So this is in two parts. How to cultivate seeing Krishna as our friend, dearmost friend, supreme friend in our everyday sadhana. This is everybody, not just if that's your rasa with Krishna, but in your everyday sadhana. So, I'm going to start with this term, Vishvasa. Vishvasa is a clue to understanding how to cultivate a mood of seeing Krishna as your dear friend. Vishvasa means to have a strong faith or confidence in the Lord as one's benefactor. Just like Bhoktaram Jagatapasam. Krishna, that 529 verse, Krishna says, I am the Bhokta of all yagyas. He's the enjoyer, or he's the benefactor. It's unto him who all yagyas are to be offered. And when one offers yagya to the Bhokta, or to Krishna, then one receives transcendental benefit, not just pious credits, but there's release from karma. Bad things are diminished, and the natural good thing within is awakened. The natural good thing within is our natural state, our happy state, our constitutional position of seeing ourselves as servants of the Supreme. Very nice example Prabhupada gives is the position of a servant. In a worldly, like mundane sense, a servant is a lowly position. Don't be somebody's servant. But in the spiritual sense, that which materially looks low, in the spiritual sense is very high. Because if you're the servant of the most opulent person, Prabhupada gives this example, if you're the servant of the king, then what happens? You live in the palace, and you dress in royal garments, and you eat the finest of food, and you're living like a king, although you're the servant of the king. You eat the same food the king eats. You dress in royal garments, you live in the palace, although you're not the king. So you don't have all the headaches. You have all the privileges, just by being a servant of the king. Like that, one becomes the servant of the Supreme Lord, And the greatest of happiness is yours. Your place of residence is the kingdom of God. And in the kingdom of God, there's no taxes. There's no birth, death, disease, and old age. There's no criminals. You don't have to lock your doors. You don't have to pay insurance. It's a land of no anxiety. By this one thing, just becoming the servant of the Supreme Benefactor. So, Vishvasa means to have a strong faith, confidence in that fact. Now, here's another quiz question. Some of you are familiar with another writing of Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Instruction. You know, that little skinny book, 11 verses, very small. In the third verse, Rupa Goswami teaches the same thing, but in just one word. Well, he teaches, there are 6 things that can enrich your life in devotion, or make your life in devotion fully successful. The first of them is enthusiasm, utsaha. And the second of them is nishchaya, which is very similar to this, firm confidence. Confidence that Krishna is the Supreme Benefactor. If I engage myself in this process of devotional service, what's going to happen? I'll become purified. It's like you get on the train that's going to Vaikuntha, and you'll get there. Just stay on the train. The process of devotional service is purifying. I may be not very qualified, but the process is supremely pure and very powerful. And the object is the supreme pure and the all-powerful. And this process will take me to the Supreme. So with confidence, Vishvasa, let me stay nicely engaged as best as I can in the process of devotional service. Because I have confidence in Krishna as my dearmost friend. I may not be qualified, I'm unqualified, but Krishna is qualified. And this process will take me to him. Another quiz question. I don't know why I'm asking quiz questions. Another quiz question. There's a nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya describes or gives a definition of faith. Does anybody know that verse? Anybody? Raise your hand. Go ahead. Loud.
Shraddha sabde vishwas kahe sudrudha nishchaya.
Sudrita nishchaya.
Sarva karma krita haya.
Krishna bhakti.
Krishna bhakti sarva karma krita haya.
That's good enough. That's the verse. That's the verse. You got it. So the word Vishvasa is in the verse. Shraddha, Shabde. Shraddha, it is said that faith is Vishvas Kahe. Sudrita Nishtaya. With very strong, very Sudrita, very strong confidence in the fact that if I can achieve one thing, all other desirable things will be accomplished. That's faith. So like materialists, they have faith. Money. Get money. Because then I get money, then I can get the things that will make me happy. So money's the honey. Get the money. That's their faith. And everything is surrendered around one thing. Get money. Morning till night and even in their sleep. Get money. or an Olympic athlete, get the gold medal, etc. So everything in their whole life is oriented around that one thing. And it requires some faith or some confidence. This is going to make me happy. If I get this one thing, then that's my life. The happiness in my life. So transcendental faith, or sudridha nishchaya, is the confidence, vishvas, that if I can just achieve Krishna bhakti, pure devotional service to Krishna, there may be other things in my life that I consider to be valuable, but those things will automatically be achieved. I'll say it again. Those things will automatically be achieved. Automatically. Those things will automatically be achieved if I can achieve this one thing. Prabhupada gives this other example of in a king's palace, there's a queen. And the king provides for the queen ladies in waiting, or attendants. And as the queen moves about the palace, the ladies in waiting move around the palace, following her around. But the faithful queen is not thinking, oh, now I have it made. I have all these ladies in waiting helping me. Her attention is just going to the king. They're there, but that's not the happiness of the queen. The happiness of the queen is the happiness of the king. Similarly, for the devotee, who thinks the happiness of Krishna is that's this one thing, that all other things that I may need or think it's important, they'll naturally be arranged for by Krishna because of this one thing. And you know, there's another verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says the same thing. Anybody know that verse? Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paripasate. Okay, very good. We have some nice devotees that have learned some verses in Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction. All these nice literatures help enrich because they corroborate, or in different ways with a different voice. Sometimes Krishna is speaking, sometimes Krishna's devotee speaking. In that verse, Krishna says, Ananya Chintayanto Mam. Ananya means undivided. Anya means other, and Ananya means no other. The opposite of other. Ananya Chintayanto Mam. Those whose minds are fixed on me alone. Ye jana paripasate. Those who upasana, those who worship me with singular devotion. That's what they do. And then what Krishna does, Tesham, unto those nityabhiyuktanam, who are so engaged, yoga kshema bahamyaham. I provide whatever it is that they require and they don't have. Whatever they have, I preserve. And he does it personally because it's personal. Bhakti, life of devotion, is very personal. So this is also very personal. If one has confidence, strong faith that Krishna is my dearmost friend, from that one thing, all other things will come. I don't need to. I may have other needs, but Krishna will see to those. It's like a child, a child feeling dependent upon the mother and father. The child doesn't have to go to the mother and father and say, Mommy, it's cold out. Can I have a sweater? Mommy's got 3 sweaters. Which one do you want? Like that. Can I have something to eat? You know, she's got the whole thing going on in the kitchen. Because that's what mommies like to do. Their happiness is taking care of their children. So Krishna's happiness is taking care of his. In the Bhagavad Gita verse, Sarvadehinam, all living entities. But what to speak of those who are feeling fully dependent upon him. He's the benefactor. So we don't need to separately think of and make arrangements for other things. Just this one thing. Vishwas. So, a little expansion of that. The term Shraddha and Vishwas, they're very close, sometimes used interchangeably, but there's a slight shade of meaning difference. Vishwas is the practice for bringing a particular result of faith. This is from Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami. And also being the topmost result of Shraddha. So it's both the means and the result. Faith is something kind of underlying. Adau Shraddha, in the language of Rupa Goswami. There's some preliminary faith. We all have that, otherwise we would be somewhere else. The preliminary faith is there's something more to life than just the external cosmetic look of things. I don't know if any of you were at those of you that were at the wedding ceremony yesterday, I commented like that from the Chinese students that took part in the volunteer, the internship to help in the marketing department of Illinois Institute of Technology to market Krishna consciousness. So their realization, several of them expressed that from my association at the temple, I've learned that there's another higher purpose to life that I never thought about before, because before I was only thinking, work hard, get the fruits of my work, money, and then prosper. I wasn't thinking of a purpose of life beyond that, but now I know I should be thinking about another purpose of life beyond that. So faith, that's faith. There's something, I don't know exactly what that something is. In the beginning, one may say, I don't know exactly what, but deep inside I know there's something greater. And I want to fan that spark. And the hearing and chanting is fanning the spark. It's helping to focus in on what that something is and make the desire stronger. And so that's the faith. Following the faith, then there's some practical activity that I'm carrying out. That's the practice based upon that faith. And in Rupa Goswami's teaching, it's also the fruit or the result of that intrinsic faith being acted upon with some conviction. In Bhagavad Gita, again, this is that translation of the same verse, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. And you can say, and not otherwise. So, part of this faith is not only the things that I wish to attain, Krishna will help me attain them, but this is that yoga kshema vahamyaham, Krishna will provide what I need. Oops. There's also a verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, near yoga kshema atmavan. Again, yoga kshema. This is Krishna's position. Yoga means to connect with the Supreme, and yoga kshema means what happens when you connect with the Supreme. Atmavan, when you connect with Krishna, you're free, you're released from the material illusion or material clutches or material affinity, and instead, in its place, spiritual attraction for the personality of Godhead. This is what comes from placing your faith or confidence in Krishna. Not only a Vedic teaching, here's a statement from Bible, the Psalms of the New Testament. The Lord is the Lord's Prayer, by the way. The Lord, or prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. They added it differently than what I learned when I was little. He makes me lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So this is from the Psalms of the Bible. Feeling the Lord's protection, feeling confidence in him. He's my best friend. If I walk with him by my side or follow him and his teachings, everything is there. In Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada writes, the devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follows the rules and regulations with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. Even down to simple things. This is a devotee paying obeisances at Govardhan Hill. And a worldly person looking at paying obeisances to a hill or to a tree, like Tulsi, thinks, what's wrong with these people? But what's in the heart of the faithful devotee is, this is Krishna, or a dear devotee of Krishna who bestows Krishna bhakti, and on that basis they're knowingly, consciously feeling protection and the shelter and safety of the personality of Godhead. Draupadi recited, let's see what's happening. It's supposed to be a audio file. Oh, wow. Hang on a second. But the audio is. We're okay. Draupadi prays, O Govinda, remembering again and again your promise that your devotee will never perish, I maintain my life. So Draupadi is a devotee of Krishna, pure devotee of Krishna, and she saw Krishna in that way, her protector and friend. Here we go. In all kinds of tribulations, I simply remember your promise, thus I live. So our tribulation is never going to match what Draupadi had to endure. So whatever it is that we meet in life that's a challenge or difficult or tribulation, Krishna is our shelter. And one who has firm faith and confidence in that fact is protected. Doesn't mean you'll never have a problem. Problems may come, but the transcendental shelter of Krishna brings one to the position of happiness and contentment, even in the face of that circumstance. So here we go. I didn't create this PowerPoint, somebody else did, but it's nice. The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one's life and soul. One will not give up the shelter, his shelter, at the lotus feet of the Lord, even for a single moment. That faith or confidence brings shelter in Krishna, and shelter in Krishna brings Krishna's full protection. Everything that one requires. Even in exchange for the benediction of ruling the entire universe, or taking the post of a devata. This is the mood of one who has taken Krishna's full shelter. So, in our everyday practice, summary, seeing Krishna as our best friend, our only shelter, our benefactor or well-wisher. It's from him that I receive whatever it is that I have, my maintenance, my protection. I find peace and solace in his promise that he'll give protection, etc. So I won't give up his shelter for anything. Offer all material opulence or any other lure, and no question. In Bombay, when Srila Prabhupada was attempting to establish the Juhu temple, this is a little history for those of you from India that will appreciate what I'm about to say, I think. Prabhupada was trying to help the wealthy industrialist gentleman understand how important, comparatively, how important Krishna Bhakti was compared to their great wealth. And he then introduced them to the temple president, then at that time at least, the temple president of the Juhu temple was Giriraj Maharaj. And I knew Giriraj Maharaj before he went to India because his father, he grew up in the Boston area. So the first temple that I joined was the Boston temple, and Giriraj Maharaj helped train me in Krishna consciousness. And it's just for a short while, because he was then called, along with each of the centers was to send one devotee, one of their best devotees, to join Srila Prabhupada in India for what Prabhupada was calling the World Sankirtan Party. It was his idea of helping to influence the people of India to take up devotional service by showing his European and American and Australian disciples how enthusiastically they're taking up devotional service. Because when Prabhupada started, he started in India and they wouldn't take part in devotional service. They went to America, and after some ordeal, devotees started practicing Krishna consciousness, so he took his white elephants, he called them, back to India and paraded them around and said, look, you're chasing after the opulence of America. Here's the Americans that are after devotion to Krishna. They were really powerful devotees, and they went all over India having huge kirtan and pandal programs, and they were very intensely engaged, what Prabhupada called the World Sankirtan Party. And after some time, somebody stepped forward and offered some land for building a temple in Bombay. And Giriraj Maharaj was made the president. So he showed them a letter from Giriraj Maharaj's father, who was very wealthy. He wrote to Giriraj Maharaj, "You give up Krishna consciousness, I'll give you $1 million. And Giriraj Maharaj said, "No thanks, Dad. Not for $1 million. I won't give up Krishna consciousness." So you're very much valuing your wealth, but here's a young man who's $1 million he's not going to give up shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. He was very proud of Giriraj Maharaj because not everybody would decline. Oh, for $1 million, everyone, I've got a price. Make it $2 million and I'll go. But it was no. So this is this quality that we can cultivate. That chasing after worldly opulence is not as meaningful to one who has faith in Krishna as seeking shelter in Krishna's service. Whatever that service may be. Some wealthy person may come and clean the floor of Krishna's temple. Maharaj Ambarish did that. He was the king. He didn't hire somebody to clean the temple floor. He would with his own hand clean the temple floor. And with his legs go to the temple and fix his mind upon the deity and hear the beautiful songs and teachings glorifying the personality of God. He was engaging all of his senses and faculties in a very humble way in Krishna's service, with great faith. So we can also, this is Krishna's temple, and of course your home can be Krishna's temple, and the world can be a place where you can engage in Krishna's service, but temples are specifically for that opportunity to come and hear and chant and worship and serve together, and join in kirtan together. So come and, like that, participate. And the service may be very simple, but whatever that service is, it's of great value. And this is the statement of how you can make Krishna your dear friend. In whatever way that you render some service, think of him in that way. He's your well-wisher and protector and dearmost friend. Now there's a higher meaning of seeing Krishna as one's friend. And this is the term that's used here as mitra. In Nectar of Devotion, same chapter we've been referring to. The second type of devotional friendship is to become a well-wisher of He who is the well-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada writes, anyone who is preaching the confidential message of the Gita to the people in general is so dear to Krishna that no one can be equal to him in human society. He's stating something that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Dearmost to me is one who's teaching this message. Mekha Suhridham. The clouds are the friends of Krishna. The cloud and Krishna, having the same bodily color, are considered to be friends. Krishna is accepted as the friend of the cloud because both the cloud and Krishna satisfy the people when they are disturbed. When the people are burning to excessive heat, due to excessive heat, the cloud satisfies them with rain. Similarly, when people in materialistic life become disturbed by the blazing fire of material pangs, Krishna consciousness gives them relief, like a cloud. So, comparing the cloud to Krishna in Krishna book, Krishna gives that benediction upon others. That was fire, by the way. Samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, is compared to a forest fire. A forest fire takes place automatically, without anyone's endeavor, by the friction of dried wood, and no fire department or sympathetic person can extinguish it. Read this morning from this very chapter, yesterday, chapter 21 of the third canto. So the repeated cycle of birth and death is like a blazing fire. You can't get freed from it unless there's a downpour of rain, a downpour of mercy from the personality of Godhead. Such a worldly fire can be extinguished only by the water of the mercy cloud of saints, just as a forest fire can be extinguished only by rains falling from a cloud. Let us all be clouds of mercy in order to act as the friend of the Lord. You see the connection. As the cloud is giving, Krishna gives mercy. And one can act on behalf of Krishna, and not like we're something special, but just repeating Krishna's message. The message is very powerful. We're just little instruments or messengers of Krishna. But we can act on his behalf. And as the cloud is also the friend of the Lord in a very personal way, from the same chapter, chapter 35, Krishna book, comparing clouds to Krishna and Krishna's devotee to clouds. So, when it's the scorching summer in Vrindavan, sometimes the clouds, instead of pouring water, pour snow. Out of their wish to not see Krishna scorched by the scorching sun, they pour snow, and it acts like an umbrella to protect him. The cloud wishes to honor their superior friend, Krishna. So the idea here is we can act on behalf of Krishna, who gives benediction to persons in the blazing fire of repeated birth and death, says samsara, birth and death, by giving his message of Bhagavad Gita. And one can assist Krishna, be cloud-like or Krishna-like, or an instrument of Krishna. In this way, be a dearmost friend of Krishna. We all can do that. We all can do that. If you become conversant in the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and wish or desire for Krishna to give you some opportunity, Krishna will provide some opportunity where you can extend something to others. I just received this little note, this is anecdotal. But one devotee couple were visiting family members that live in Australia. So they were with their relatives' home in Australia. And some German salesman came door to door trying to sell a product that could save them some money. I forget even what the product was. So they found the man was a gentleman, and they were interested in what he had to sell also, and they signed up for whatever that savings thing was. And it was getting to be around lunchtime. So they asked the man if he was hungry. And they said, but we're vegetarian. So, I don't know, you like vegetarian food. I said, well, I've been thinking about vegetarian, you know. So they started a conversation in other direction about vegetarian. And then they offered him something to take with him because he was in a hurry to go make some more sales. And somehow he ended up, I forget, he ended up back at their door. And so they had lunch with him, and they ended up giving him a Bhagavad Gita. They came back the next day, said, I was up all night reading this Bhagavad Gita, it's so wonderful, and how can I learn more about this? Just because they were on their toes to be friendly to someone, and as Krishna provided the opportunity, speak something about Krishna, and one thing led to the next thing, led to the person is now practicing Krishna consciousness back in Germany. So if the desire is in your heart, you can certainly, there's other ways too. You can go on the monthly Sankirtan festival and meet people, or just on your own. Go out here and there and carry literature with you. When I travel, my little backpack, I have 3 different literatures. This one, that one, and the other one, depending on persons that I meet, so I can give them some Krishna conscious literature, because I'm like Krishna's perambulatory messenger. One thing is speaking his message, but also some written message. And you also, you go to the marketplace, you go to the workplace, you go to school, and somewhere there's some persons that, if your heart and your mind are open, if you're wishing to be Krishna's friend and assist him in his dissemination of the message of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will provide opportunity. Or you can go out of your way and create the opportunity. That's also very nice. And it's very rewarding. I mean, not just numerically, it's relationally rewarding in your relationship with Krishna. Because you'll see, time and again, Krishna will reciprocate. And you'll know it's Krishna's reciprocation, it's his kindness. In regard to worshipping the Lord as a friend, the Augusta Samhita states that a devotee engaged in performing devotional service by Shravanam and Kirtanam sometimes wants to see the Lord personally. And for this purpose, he resides in a temple. Prabhupada speaking of our ashrams that are connected with our temples. A person who is dedicated to serving the Lord and out of friendship sees and treats him as a human lies down in the Lord's temple. These are different reference sources. Lying down in the temple should be classed as Raganuga sadhana because of disregard of Vaidhi sadhana. You normally don't lie down in the temple, in other words. But someone may, we used to have that arrangement in our, at least in the Brooklyn temple, because we were in a tough neighborhood, previous location, really tough neighborhood. So it was someone's assigned duty every night to sleep in the temple room just to guard the deities. But it was a very coveted service to sleep before the deity. Normally you don't do that, so they had to be trained how to make sure the place is washed after the night, because it's the Lord's temple. So this friendship with the Lord is, although He is the supreme protector protecting us, one may think, I wish well for Him. Like Him, I want to help others and relieve their distress on His behalf. I especially show my friendship with the Lord by teaching others of His glories and the secret of surrender to Him. I want to relieve the Lord of any inconvenience out of friendship. I may also, in friendship, see the Lord. This is now in the Rasa area, like the liberated, perfected soul area. So that leads to this. Rasa, with some devotees, have their eternal relationship as Krishna's friend. Rupa Goswami writes, I offer my respects to the friends of Krishna, who serve Him with deep trust, without restriction, without fear, while thinking He is their equal. There are 2 types of friends, those in the city, like in Dwarka, and those in Vrindavan. And the city ones, Arjuna, Bhima, Draupadi, and Sudama. Of course, he was just outside the city, but he saw Krishna as his friend. But of course, he worshipped Krishna, and of course, Krishna worshipped him because he was a Brahmana. But in his heart of hearts, he worshipped Krishna, although they had an intimacy of a friendship. This is a friendship with Krishna in Rasa, as one of the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. Neutrality, servitor, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. For example, in friendship, Arjuna saw that Ashvatthama was releasing various kinds of arrows to hurt Krishna. So he stood in front of Krishna to capture the arrows. And although Arjuna was being wounded, he felt ecstatic love for Krishna. And the arrows felt to him like showers of flowers. In Braja, now this is outside the city, in the land of Braja, some of Krishna's friends are a little older and feel protective. Some are a little younger and they like to serve. Some are around the same age and are more intimate, or most intimate. There are different terms in Sanskrit for these types of friends. In Vrindavan, Krishna has well-wisher friends, such as Mandali Bhadra and Balabhadra. Peer friends like Devaprastha, confidential friends such as Sridham and Sudham, and intimate friends such as Subal and Ujjvala. And in this big concert of friendship and love of Krishna, pure love of Krishna, Krishna regularly would engage in his pastimes with the cowherd boys. And in different ways, they would intimately associate with one another. Sometimes playing just like little children. And laughing and playing with the cows, and in one place it's described, actually the cowherd boys weren't herding the cows, they were just playing all day long. And the cows would follow them wherever they went because they had such affection for Krishna also. In Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada writes how Krishna felt towards his friends in Vrindavan. He once said to Balaram, "My dear brother, when my companions were being devoured by the Aghasura, hot tears poured down from my eyes. And as they were washing my cheeks, my dear elder brother, for at least one moment, I completely lost myself." Krishna was covered by his own Yogamaya potency because of the intensity of love that he felt for those who have such intensity of love for him. And here's how Krishna's friends feel about Krishna. "You have spent 7 nights standing constantly, without sleep, holding up Govardhan. You must be very tired. Oh, my friend, throw the mountain into Sridham's hand. Our minds are very disturbed seeing you in this condition, or at least place the mountain in your right hand, then we'll be able to massage your left hand." In friendship. In love, in friendship. The Lord himself, his other devotee friends, and his age, his beauty, his bugle, his flute, his conch shell, and his pleasing attitude all provoke love and friendship for him. Of course, these same provoke that mood of love in a different rasa according to the constitutional position. So this rasa is another kind of friendship. So, conclusion. This is the last slide. There are these 2 ways of looking at cultivation of friendship for all of us, as in our sadhana stage. The Lord is my friend and protector, and I am the Lord's friend, and I try to make him happy. Primarily the emphasis was placed on being the instrument of his message, speaking Bhagavad Gita, making the knowledge of transcendence and relationship with Krishna available to others, taking that on as an act of love and friendship, knowing Krishna's desire. As he is our well-wisher, let me do something for him in service, in friendship for Krishna. And This other is on the Rasa level. Friends of Krishna in the city, friends of Krishna in Vrindavan. There are different ages and intimacies of Krishna. The end. So we can cultivate, even at our present stage, devotional service as Krishna's friend, or seeing Krishna as our friend. And as that intimacy grows and grows, then it can actually, in pure stage, turn into a mood of transcendental love, or rasa for Krishna, depending upon whatever our constitutional relationship may be. So the purpose of going through all of this is a few things. One is to encourage all of you. I'm saying this and repeating in part because some of you came in a little late. Now that Rath Yatra is over and the season of thinking of Lord Jagannath and the pastime of Lord Chaitanya, taking Lord Jagannath on the Rath cart and taking him to Vrindavan from the land of opulence of Purushottama. This is summertime, now a very nice time. Kids are out of school, and people like to go here and there and do things. Take the teachings of transcendental literatures provided so generously by our founder Acharya, and take some time and dive deeply into that subject matter. At least in some cases where opportunity has provided itself, I've given assignments to some younger devotees, their summer project, to read something, a transcendental something. One of them I asked specifically to, this summer, to take the whole Bhagavad Gita study course, because they're really good students, and they really like to read, and they like to get Asian exams too. So, study the whole of Bhagavad Gita. Prema Trangini has that material. She's now teaching it here, or online. You can sign up, whatever your age is, almost whatever your age is, and participate in systematically hearing the devotional literature. You'll find that it will nurture your Krishna consciousness. And then when we hear things like one of the processes of devotional service is seeing Krishna as my friend, it's not just something abstract, but something that you can learn and enter into more deeply. And cultivate it when you're chanting, when you're serving, when you're speaking the message of Bhagavad Gita. You can be thinking specifically. It will help you think, this is going to please Krishna, besides how you feel. This is going to please Krishna. Let me do it nicely, so it'll be pleasing to Krishna. And you'll see, Krishna will give you more and more opportunity. And you feel that reciprocation from Krishna. You take it up nicely, and there'll be more and more reciprocation. Your life doesn't have to change its structure, but you just fill it up with Krishna and Krishna consciousness. The richness of Prabhupada's writings is such a great asset. So please take advantage. This systematic study is a very nice way to begin. So that's my presentation for today. Any comments or questions? Yes?
Once Kapiladev was born, Lord Kapiladev, Kardama only left for forest for again meditation. Which part of this rasa will it fall under our existence?
Which part of what?
In these 5 primary rasas, does it relate to any of one of them? Like, usually any devotee, like they would like to serve Krishna and they want to see him. But how come Kardama only left for forest when Kapiladev was born?
Okay, this is totally unrelated with this topic, but it's a nice question. It's a nice question. I've thought about this and discussed this with others, and here's a few things to suggest. Just like Devahuti knew after Kardamoni left that soon Kapila-Dev would leave, because Kapila-Dev had pastimes to perform. So it was making part of his leaving was leaving Devahuti in a situation where she's fully dependent upon her son, who she knows is going to leave. In that intensity, it intensified her shelter-taking in her son, intensified her love. That's one. Another is similar to, but not the same as, but similar to Ramchandra sending Sita to the forest. It was, or the Leela of Ramchandra being tricked by Marichi. He's the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how can he make a mistake? It's not a mistake. It's a Leela for intensifying love through feelings of separation. Insane, sending Sita away after the rumor that was spoken against him. It wasn't factual. Sita had already proven herself pure, but he sent her away. In part it was to show one thing, that the king that holds the standards of the peace of the citizens above his own interest, even when his own interest is perfectly valid. So, in addition to showing his position as the ideal king, detachment, love and separation. Love and separation. So, now, Karma Muni, he showed, even before Kapila-Dev was born, he was on the topmost platform. His austerity and his practice of yoga was so strong and so devotional, Lord Vishnu came. And Lord Vishnu told him, I know your desire to have me as your son. That desire will be fulfilled. And so it happened. Now, your question is, having that desire fulfilled, why did he leave? It's love and separation. But it's also showing by example. So what is the duty of a person who has very qualified praja, or offspring? Even they may be a very exalted person with very qualified offspring. Example setting is, take the situation of vanaprastha. Prabhupada would speak about this often. It's the duty of those who have children, when the children are of mature age, to enter into the next ashram. It's not commonly followed, but it's certainly part of Vedic culture. So Kardama was teaching by example. Although the situation was not only very nice, but transcendently nice. By example, he showed entering the Vanaprastha stage, which was the commitment that he received from Swayambhuva Manu before he married. And he fulfilled the commitment that he had. To set an example. As was Ramachandra, setting an example for his citizens as the ideal king. The Brahmana, Kardamuni, was setting the example. So that we can understand, wow, even if we have a, really super devotional situation in our family, there's a duty to be performed. The next stage of life, and then the next stage of life, to prepare for the final passage of the soul. There are families that religiously follow that standard. I can give some examples. There are a lot that don't, but there's some that do, and they're setting the standard, or they're showing by example. But the rasa understanding is the deeper understanding. The love and separation. On the you could say the pretext of instructing others. Devahuti took the position of a conditioned soul when speaking to her son. Kardamuni was similarly taking the position of a conditioned soul like us that needs to enter into the next stage of life, vanaprastha stage of life. He wasn't a conditioned soul, nor was Devahuti a conditioned soul. Mother and father of the personality of Godhead, they're exceptional souls. Teaching by example. That's the external. The internal is intensity of love and separation.